Ladies and gents, welcome back. We've all heard of Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada's ties to the World Economic Forum. If you think that that sounds like a conflict of interest, well, you're not alone in that. And we have other people online asking questions. We have here Noah Chartier saying, anyone interested in seeing the communications between Chrystia Freeland and her World Economic Forum Board of Trustees colleagues in the leadership position with the forum? Well, what's this we have here? This is further to your request under the Access of Information Act for any communications from Chrystia Freeland or her staff that relates to Freeland's involvement as a member of the World Economic Forum's Board of Trustees. Any communication between Freeland and her staff with the WEF leadership personalities. The following serves to notify you that pursuant to paragraph 9(1)(c) of the Act, the extension beyond the 30-day statutory limit is required to complete consultations with third parties. What does that mean? Well, it looks like we need to consult with the dozens of WEF leadership personalities to get their permission to release the information. Hopefully, they're fully committed to democracy and transparency. Well, that's it. It's amazing. But we were able to get a hold of this letter that was sent from, it looks like Borj Bende, president for the World Economic Forum. Here he's addressing Chrystia Freeland directly. If you go down into the letter, it says the Canadian model of multilateralism, inclusivity, and equity must be at the heart of these efforts. Talking about, well, basically some of their initiatives here. I know I can count on your leadership to ensure economies and societies develop a more sustainable and just way. These are keywords that they use quite often. I plan to visit Ottawa in early December, which will be an excellent time to help structure the Canadian engagement in the annual meeting in January. Interesting. I don't recall the election for this guy. I don't remember his running. Maybe he had a slogan in Canada and he had signs outside of people's homes, but I just don't recall that. That's not something that I remember. But here we have something from, and I'll leave the link in the description down below, but this is the conflict of interest rules when it comes to government employees. This is from the Justice Law website, loisjustice.gc.ca. So it's a government website giving just that out. But conflict of interest rules here prohibited activities of someone who's in government. No reporting public office holder shall, except as required by the exercise of his or her official powers and duties and functions, continue as or become a director or officer of corporation or an organization. Well, what is this? What is this? Chrystia Freeland, her profile at the World Economic Forum, she is a member of the forum's Board of Trustees. So it's clearly in violation of conflict of interest rules. And well, what is Chrystia Freeland working on? Well, she's working on a lot of stuff to make sure you're paying out the wazoo for from here on in, long after she's gone and goes and tries to work for, well, the United Nations, because that's what she's vying for. I don't think she has any loyalty to our nation here. She talks more about Ukraine than she does about our own country and her own constituents and the citizens within these borders. This is not something she seems to be very concerned with. Anyway, this is an article, Substack, from Dan Frontier. You should go check out his Substack. Make sure you subscribe to that. Trudeau and Freeland set to carbon tax Canadians $140 billion yearly. Now, you can't make this stuff up, folks. Bill C-32, which currently in its third reading in the House of Commons as of December 7th, 2022, seeks to implement the Canada Growth Fund, which was announced in the 2022 federal budget under the guise of climate change and with the federal government's commitment to build a net zero economy by 2050. Well, whose ideas are these? Are these Canadian ideas? I'm hearing that they're not. Chapter 2 of the budget document indicates that Canada will need between 125 billion and 140 billion of investment every year for that period. This isn't total. This is every year. Well, how much are we actually paying right now? This is the clip here of their statements. But the current annual investment in the climate transition sits between 15 billion and 25 billion. Where's that money going anyway? Where is that going? Well, it's a lot of, nepotism. I think that's what you can really sum it up to. We saw it with the Arrive Can app that cost us, $52 million when tech experts were saying it shouldn't have cost more than $200,000. But it turns out a lot of that money just kind of walked out the door. And that's what a lot of this really comes down to. So we're already spending 15 billion and 25 billion respectively, and they're calling for, even more. Now I'll let you guys read through this article. It is quite a long one, but I'll leave a link in the description down below. You can get your way through this. But here we are. Our liberal politicians serving Canadians or supernational organizations' interests. In the last few years, both Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland have been criticized for kowtowing to the interests of the likes of the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, and its climate change conference, such as COP27 recently held in Egypt. And I think there's COP15 was the recent one as well. Justin Trudeau has been highly praised by the World Economic Forum's leader, the Cotton Schwab himself, the Grand Q-tip, with his funny wardrobe. He looks like a Mortal Kombat character, less than a world leader, who openly bragged about penetrating the cabinets. He actually said we have that on video. I can pull it up if you guys need in another video. I've pulled it up too many times. But yeah, he's actually stated in his forums that he has penetrated the cabinets of governments around the world, and specifically in that one talked about Justin Trudeau as his young global leader. Chrystia Freeland, Rhodes Scholar and 22 Bloomberg attendee, currently sits on the World Economic Board of Trustees, the World Economic Forum's Board of Trustees. It's just, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. Just conflict of interest after conflict of interest. There's no secret that the World Economic Forum works hand in hand with the United Nations to help realize their 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Or as Whitney Webb and Ian Davis would put it, in their sustainable debt slavery goals. This is the road to serfdom. This is what F.A. Hayek wrote about years ago. If you haven't read that, get on it. Irrespective of which side of the fence one sits on about the authenticity of climate change, the selective sciences to back them, the fact remains that it's nonetheless massively used to tax the masses around the globe. It's the modern day indulgence tax that Martin Luther fought against all those years ago. Canadians, being the mindful and generous souls that we are known for, are more willing to oblige in supporting and even propagating this costly enterprise. And it certainly appears that in the years to come, Canadians will foot its massive carbon bill unless they start pushing back against these politicians who don't have our interests at heart, but are rather intent on usurping our national sovereignty to supranational entities. And again, I'll encourage you to go over and read that Substack. Really good article by, again, Dan Frontier. Go check that out. And I think I'll leave a link to his Twitter in the description as well. Go follow him there. I'm encouraging more and more people to go over to Twitter. I used to say, I go to Twitter so you don't have to. It's a cesspit. It used to be anyway. It still is in some ways. But I liken it to having an intellectual conversation with an angry chihuahua behind a chain link fence. It is how it seems over there. So if you are interested in going over, I'll leave a link to his Twitter handle over there. You can go give him a follow. Lots of good news to come out of his Substack, and he also writes for a number of other publications. So go check that out, and let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of this whole conflict of interest thing? We have rules in our government. It's not like we don't have rules about conflict of interests, but we don't seem to be doing anything about this. I mean, a law is only as good as the enforcement that you have. A rule is only good as the enforcement and the willingness to actually enforce it and hold people to account. But will that happen? Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, make today the day that you subscribe. And we're on our way to 100,000 subscribers on the channel. It's amazing. Thank you guys all so much. And, well, we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.